find Open Theatre 2. This is where we're going to be speaking in the next couple of days. Friday, we're going to be chatting in Open Theatre 2. And then, of course, on Saturday as well, we're going to be chatting in Open Theatre 2. So we're going to be talking all about property development and what's going on in the property development world. People are still setting up here at the moment at the show. Please, there's a lady here. She wants us to come on through. Just carry on walking. It doesn't matter. You're live on the BBC. You're okay. It's absolutely fine. But a lot of people are still setting up their stands here this evening. The show starts live tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Please come and join us. It's a free show. Lots of people here. There's mortgage companies, there's finance companies, there's people that want to lend you money as developers. There's all sorts of networking people here. There are some tax specialists I can see over here. Someone called Property Engine, YPN are here, PIN are here, Simon Zucci's crew, Crowd Property are here. Lots of people in the industry that probably you ought to meet. I mean, of course, propertyCEO here. I'm here. Ian's here, actually. Would you believe Ian's here as well? Yeah, we let him have a party. He's come out for the weekend, a couple of days off. So we're here, and of course, everyone's setting up. We're pretty much there. We got here a bit earlier today, so we're structured. We're ready. I'm not going to write a presentation for tomorrow, but we're all set and ready. So this is our stand, as you can see here. Look at that lovely banner that we've got up and prepped ready for us. So and a picture of myself and Ian at the back. Can't have enough of that. My mum loves it. So anyway, welcome to Open Door. Of course, I was going to try and do the show on my own this evening, but I know people were going to complain, and so I'm going to see if Ian is around. Oh, he's not. That's a shame. He's not around. Actually, he is. Ian, come and join us. Come and join us for Open Door. Look at this. We're on the same camera this evening. It's not bad, is it? Let me put the mic up there, because otherwise it's all going to pick up my voice and not yours. Okay. So welcome. Look at that. Looking dashing at the Property Investor Show, says Ella. Thank you very much. Says Ella. That's very kind, isn't it?
Yeah, you can come again.
Yeah, good stuff. Look, welcome. This is an unusual show for us. Normally we're in the studio. We are at the Property Investor Show. Normally we're in separate studios. Bit unusual for us to be this close, isn't it?
Bit uncomfortable, to be honest. But
yeah.
We'll muddle through. Only 45 minutes, I've told myself.
Yeah, 45 minutes, and then we can separate again. In fact, we're actually going to go for a bite to eat and maybe a small drink. Perhaps we're going to do that this evening.
About that. Okay.
Yeah, that should be good. Should be good. So, Property Investor Show, please come and join us. Please come and see us up here. I think it's free, isn't it?
It is free, and we are on stand 442 with a prime slot, as you saw, next to all the speaking that's going on over the next couple of days. Lots to see, lots of people to meet, and lots of networking opportunities.
Absolutely, there is. And property, sorry, not property, what am I talking about? Open Door Show, live 45 minutes. What it's all about? Well, it's all about property. Normally we're in our studios. Quite often we have guests. We pick topics. Tonight we're going to have a topic. We're going to talk about networking in a minute. So we'll be chatting around that. Ian knows a thing or two about networking, so I'm going to ask him a few questions. Apologies if there's a bit of noise going on in the background. There's bashing and crashing and forklift trucks going off behind us. But anyway, let's see who's on this evening. Who have we actually got on here? Well, look, Tony's on. That's good. Good, Tony's on, isn't it? Patricia's on. Jack's on. Farmer Fred Barnes is on.
Who could that be?
I think that could be Bob. Hello, Bob.
Hello,
good
Bob.
evening to you, my friend. Debbie's on. Lucas is on. Giovanni's on. Hello, Giovanni. Nice to see you again. Adam's on. Nadir's on. Liam's on. Who else is on the list? Harjinder, Harvey, Carolyn, Chris. Another Adam on there. Peter, Amelia, and Co. They're all on there. And, of course, I suppose I should not forget, it looks like Richard's on. Good evening, Richard. And I guess at this point, I need to burst into a happy birthday. So, Richard, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Richard. Happy birthday to you. Now, it's not normally a request show. I'd just like to let you know that. But I believe Richard's 31 today or something like that. And so we had to give him a shout out because he is our #1 fan. Richard, good evening. Hope you enjoy the rest of your birthday. So, look, they're all here. Please, as always, put questions in the chat box because otherwise it's not really a question and answer show. Although tonight's show is a little bit different. I mean, we're just going to rabbit on a little bit here.
We are.
But yeah, please, any questions in the chat box would be useful. So, networking. You're the networking specialist.
Oh, very kind.
Well, I mean, so I'm saying. In terms of, I think as a good starting point, let's talk about 5 top tips. Okay.
5. Okay,
we can go for 4 if you want, but I mean, I'm
let's see how we go.
Push you for 5.
If I've only got 4, I'll talk at length the 4 I know. So, I think the first thing I'd say is you've got to have a plan. In my experience, a lot of people do networking really badly. So they it's a bit like going down the gym when you just sort of sit on the running machine and just sort of trundle away for half an hour without breaking a sweat. So they turn up and do precious little else. And of course, is that networking? Well, it's attending a networking event, but you haven't really got the most out of it. And I think people quite often find themselves falling into one of three different groups. So you've got the people that go around networking at 1,000,000 miles an hour, collecting as many business cards as they can. And at the end of the evening, they have a big count up and presumably award themselves some sort of prize for, 50 business cards collected and absolutely zero relationships formed, which is entirely useless. So you've got a fantastic database and Rolodex, but nobody remembers you from Adam.
What's the Rolodex? Because I would imagine that's quite an old saying for our audience out there. I mean, I don't even know what that is. You're a lot older than me. What's a Rolodex?
A CRM system.
Oh, what's a CRM?
Good Lord. So you feel somewhere in the middle between CRM and Rolodex?
I don't know.
Okay. A list of names and telephone numbers. So we've covered all the ages.
Please.
So that's one sort of group. I think what you end up also is having the wallflowers. So you go to these networking events and basically you keep yourself to yourself. Maybe there's a speaker and you wait for the speaker. You might be on your phone pretending to do some texts or emails just so that nobody talks to you and you don't have to talk to anybody else, but you don't look too awkward. And then when the speaker starts, you grab a seat and with a big sigh of relief, no one's looking at you anymore. Again, not a great place to be from a networking perspective. And then there's the people that I call the clingers. So these are people that are sort of a step up from the wallflower, and what they do is they find somebody, and that person smiles, and they're both in the same boat normally. It's like, thank God I've found somebody who I can talk to, and they stay rigidly glued to them for the whole of the duration of the networking meeting. So they end up with one business card, and it's quite well sort of thumbed, and one relationship, but they haven't really worked the room. So what you need to do is to have a plan. You need to say, right, I'm not going to go and get 50 business cards. That's pointless. I need to go and get maybe, it could be anything between, maybe between 2 and maybe half a dozen decent conversations where you can establish whether somebody's worth having a further conversation with. At the end of the day, you're not trying to do everything in the room. You're really just looking to see, is there somebody there that could be useful to you, that could be a good networking opportunity, and somebody that could be useful for you going forward? And if so, build a bit of rapport with them, and then get their information and maybe arrange to meet up for a coffee. And then you want to move on and make sure that you hit your target. So have a plan when you go to networking events. Don't just rock up and tick the box to say that I've just been. You need to actually be able to get something out of it. So that would be number one.
So you don't want to be a clinger, but you said not a clinger on one person, but you can be a clinger on 5.
Be a clinger on 5. Absolutely.
Okay.
There's no harm being a clinger on 5.
I'd like to cling to 5 people. I think that'd be great. Yeah. Excellent. And I think this point about networking and speaking, you said when the speaker starts, then you're happy that no one's looking at you. My problem over there tomorrow in Seminar Theatre 2 is when the speaker starts, it's going to be me, and everyone's looking at me, and I get a bit embarrassed up on stage. So I'm going to have to work on that this evening. And
I've also worked out that my throwing arm's not that great. I can't reach you with fruit from here.
Not nice. Go on then, second tip. We've got one. What's the second tip?
Well, I think it's probably about just almost acting. So for a lot of people, networking is something that they feel a bit uncomfortable about doing, because it's putting ourselves out there, and we, particularly if we're new to it and we're sort of a little bit worried about what people might think of us, you've really kind of got to put that armor on. You've really got to get yourself into that armor before you step in the room. Give yourself a good slap around the chops in the toilet before you go in, and basically just be somebody else for that hour, 2 hours, whatever. Because what you'll find is that so many other people in the room are in exactly the same boat as you. And if you go in with that kind of mindset that I am just going to be dominating that room, forging loads of relationships, smiling at everybody, and just engaging with the room, then you'll find that very quickly, very easily, that confidence comes kind of flooding through. But
not too creepy though.
Not too creepy. You've learned that over the years. So avoid the creepy bit, but just a bit of confidence. Even if you do need to kind of psych yourself up a bit before you go in, but you'll find that if you do that out of the blocks, then all of a sudden the rest of it is easy. You'll find that you're striking up conversations left, right, and centre.
Wow, 2 points straight away. That's quite good, isn't it? So I'm guessing you're feeling comfortable with the 5 points that you're going to deliver.
I'm just Googling as we speak the remaining 3.
I know you haven't got the technology. I can see that you must be knowing this stuff. And those that are just joining us, I see some of you joined us late. I mean, it's not normally forgiven, but we will, seeing as we're on an outside broadcast at the Property Investor Show. That's why we're actually sat in close proximity. Ian's giving us 5 top networking tips. We're on to, what's the third, Ian?
I think it's practice. So a lot of people struggle a bit to kind of engage with people, and I think if you're going into that environment where you know that you're going to be striking up conversations with strangers, people you've not met before, then
in which case they would be strangers.
Yeah, absolutely. Down on the head there. What you need to do is to have a little bit of thought. Again, it goes back to that planning. So all you need is probably, I would say, 3 conversation starters, 3 openers that you can think about, and it could be absolutely anything.
Do you come here often?
That's probably not the one to go for,
okay.
Although I gather you've had some success with that in the past. I would go for something maybe a bit topical or something related to the event.
Did you manage to get fuel today? Something like that?
That's very topical. Yeah, I like it. But what you're doing there is basically just making sure that you can start any conversation. You've got a choice of 3 opening gambits, and you're not left like most people, sort of awkwardly smiling, desperately trying to think of something to say to somebody. You'll actually, you'll be starting those conversations, and then of course that immediately builds rapport with the other person, which is actually what it's all about. So build that rapport nice and early, but plan it. A lot of people, I think, imagine that there are some very confident people out there that just are able to just talk the hind legs of a donkey all day long. And not everybody falls into that category. A lot of people, even though they might sound confident, actually they have to kind of put on a bit of an act to do it. And sometimes we kind of feel like everybody's good at it except for us. The reality is absolutely the other way around. So, but with a bit of planning, you can get pretty much ahead of the competition, because most people, as I said, do networking pretty badly. So, have a thought about some opening gambits. Another great tip is, particularly if you've been to a networking event before, try and remember people's names. It's a difficult thing to do, but how fantastic to go back the second time, recognize somebody, and be able to place the name. A bit tricky. And lots of opportunities to Google the best way of doing that. But I would say that you can definitely practice the techniques for remembering people's names, and it really does set you in good stead when you go back. People are actually thrilled that you actually remembered. All you can do, which some people do, is just say, "All right, mate."
Good stuff, Robert. It's Ian. That's really good. Just as an aside, actually, Jenny says, "Did he look at you, Ritchie?" I think when you were talking about people going on and on, or having confidence, might be. And Jenny also says, "Hi guys, good to see you." Well, Jenny, good to see you as well. Yeah. And she says she's still buzzing from the Academy Day. Jenny's one of our students. She was on our Academy Day this week. And Jenny, we're still buzzing as well. But that point Ian made, sometimes people, they look confident, but they're not. The Academy Day, I had to work hard. When the Academy Day was finished, I went to my car and I cried. I struggled to get through that Academy Day, but I did it for you, Jenny, and for everyone else. Anyway, what's the 4th point?
The 4th point is about meeting the team. So in any networking situation, obviously quite often you've got networking events where the specific purpose is networking, or you've got events like these where it's a show, but ultimately there's lots of people here and at networking events that are potentially going to be useful to you. But in particular, I would say the hosts. The hosts are nearly always very well connected, and running a networking event of any description, frankly, you're a little bit of an unsung hero. It's quite hard work. There's lots of things that you need to do, lots of organization, and there's not an awful lot of thanks that go around. So actually being able to strike up a relationship with the host or the organizers of the event and just offer to help it was a great start to get yourself sort of just build that rapport, striking up conversations with people who are obviously going to be pretty well connected. Taking things a step further, one of the things that most people don't do, which means it's a great opportunity, is to actually offer to speak at an event. Bit nerve-wracking, definitely a step up from having an elevator pitch and just talking to people in the room one by one. But what it does is it really sets you up as effectively an expert in your discipline, because of course nobody's going to stand up in front of a room and spout off about anything unless they know what they're talking about. The host, presumably the host thinks that you're up to it. That's why they've invited you to speak. And I think the great news is that you don't need to have a whole lifetime's worth of experience in property development to be able to talk about
I've got to tell
something.
people what's going on, look, because this noise, this guy's just gone by in this little truck thing here, look, he's sweeping the floor, and he asked, he just gave me a little bit of a hand signal and said, is it okay if I go by? Yeah, that's fine, it's okay, we're just going live.
We're secretly hoping that it will be electric next year. A bit quieter. So yeah, offer to speak at an event, because as I said, it really does set you up as somebody that knows what they're talking about. And of course, it's an easy way to work the room, because you don't have to then go and talk to 50 people individually. You actually all 50 sets of eyes are on you. And in terms of the subject that you talk about, it can actually be anything that relates to, could be business, could be property, but you don't have to be the finished article as a property developer to actually make that your specialist subject. A lot of people are really actually more interested in people that are on the journey, because you get, particularly at certain types of event, you get lots of people there that are perhaps interested in things like property development. And for sure, seeing a successful property developer, that's all great, but actually meeting somebody and hearing from somebody that's on the journey, that can be pretty inspiring. And also, if you've got some great tips and ideas from your other career that you can kind of bring to bear and talk about that experience that people can learn from, that can be a great topic too. So yeah, don't just be there as an attendee. Make sure that you get in touch with the host, offer to help, and better still, offer to speak.
I love this outside broadcast, guys. I mean, I'm sat here, and Roman says it looks like you guys are really enjoying yourself. We are. This is quite funny because all you can see is us, but there's so much out there in front of us going on, and this guy keeps zooming up and down with his light flashing, sweeping the carpets, and he smiles every time he drives by. It does make me laugh. It's quite funny. I think, how many tips are we up to? 4?
57, I think.
4. And I'll tell you the other thing that makes me laugh. Every time you lean forward over your left shoulder, I keep seeing you. It's like I've got double vision,
isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a thorn between two thorns.
It is, yeah. Okay, number 5. What's your 5th tip on networking then?
I would say learn how to disengage. So we have to be a little bit ruthless when it comes to.
I've disengaged now.
Have you? Very good.
This is completely disengaging.
You want to drive the little sweeper thing, don't you? When you're in a networking meeting, sometimes you can find yourself talking to people who are very enthusiastic about talking to you, but actually you've worked out quite quickly that perhaps they're not quite somebody that you necessarily going to be particularly useful to you. That sounds a bit off, but actually what you're trying to do, you're there working. You're there to get as many connections as possible, and you don't want to get bogged down in the conversation. So you clearly don't want to be rude, but what you do want to do is learn a few tips for kind of disengaging and being able to extricate yourself with ease from a conversation that you don't want to be in any longer and make your excuses. Some people are very good at that automatically, but I have seen people that have sort of remained glued effectively to the same person till the end because they can't get out of a conversation. So make sure that isn't you. I've just thought of a 6th tip.
6, okay. I mean, well, look, we were going for 5 tips, guys, but I mean, bonus tip. Hands up if you like a 6th tip off of Ian on networking. Hands up if you like a 6th tip. Only one hand gone up, I'm afraid, Ian. Out of about, I don't know what, 100 on there. Me, says Jenny Rome. Okay, look. Okay, I lied. There's quite a few hands gone up. Ian, 6th tip.
Well, it's a sort of combination thrown together, really. One is
so 6 and 7, is
6 and 7, yeah. So have a toolkit. So elevator pitch. Make sure that you've got that off pat and you know it. And he desperately wants to be on the telly, doesn't he?
This guy almost crashed into us then.
If this carpet gets any cleaner, we'll be. So yeah, have your toolkit. As I say, it all goes back to the planning. So you've got your elevator pitch, you've got your business cards, you've got your conversation starter, you're making sure that you never blag whatever happens. And I think the other thing that you need to do is to make a point of being proactive about it. So in a situation where you're networking at an event, then you're going to be in a situation where you want to make it a regular feature. So if you can do one networking event a week, absolutely fantastic. If you can do, even if you're just doing one a month, make it a regular thing that you're planning for, because they say, don't they, that your net worth is your network. And it's so true. It's property development, very much a people business. So many opportunities for all sorts of things. Private investment, professional contacts, property opportunities. They come through people that not always through the usual sort of official channels. So make sure that you've made a point of building your network and proactively going out and going to those events.
Even then, we had the ops director of the show just walk by and wants to have a chat with me about, I'm live. She went like, no, talk to you in a minute. That's fine. Good stuff, Ian. That was good. 5 top tips. That was excellent. Shall we see if we've got any questions coming?
Yes, have we got any questions?
I think we might have actually. Let's pick a few questions up here. Let's see who's in first down here. Let's have a look. This is an interesting one. Helen says, good evening, Helen. She says, what challenges do you come across when going into the ground as a developer? Well, nothing to do with networking. I don't know why I picked that one out. There are some networking ones. I'll pick those in a minute. We're never going to get through all of these questions, but we're going to do our best. Please put some more in there if you have any questions. So what challenges in going into the ground? Look, the point we often talk about with refurbishment, if you do a refurbishment project, then you want to be thinking about taking an existing building, just cutting and carving it, and not going into the ground at all, particularly on like a light industrial. Then you can build off the existing foundations. The problem going into the ground on a brownfield site, okay, if we're talking about a brownfield site, you're going into the ground and you don't know what's there historically. Are there old foundations? Are there old sewers? Are there old electrical cables? Is there old contamination that you've got to dig out? All those sorts of problems. On a greenfield site, you might be okay, but then it's dependent on the ground conditions. So within ground, you get various makeups. You might get ground which you think is gravel that you think you can bear on, but then you dig into it and then there's a peat layer going through the middle of it. We've certainly had that on projects in the past. So the ground is very much unknown. You can do investigations, you can do studies, you can do radar surveys, you can do boreholes, all of those things. But what you actually find is until you actually dig in the ground, you don't know exactly what is going on. So yeah, look, in terms of going into the ground, those are your challenges. And the other big one is weather, Helen. Okay, when it starts to rain in this country, it rains pretty hard, and you get all sorts of problems slowing up your project in the ground with trenches caving in and all sorts of things there. So I guess that's, in simple terms, is you don't see under the ground. You don't know what's going on. You can't, like on a refurbishment, do like a strip out project and see the existing structure. I mean, we're here in Excel, and this is like an industrial conversion if you wanted to, although I don't think they'll let us. But you can see all the structure. If we look up, we can see all the steel frame structure here. Okay. Whereas if we were going to build new, we don't know what's under the ground here. Okay, we don't know what's under the ground. Okay, hopefully that's helped that one. David's got a question here. So David, good evening to you. David says, do you think it's worth going to shows that aren't in your area? What do you think of that? You're the networking specialist this evening.
Well, I would say it definitely is. I think obviously you're going to shows for a number of different reasons, not just for networking. But I think there are a lot of opportunities to network with people that can be useful to you that don't necessarily need to be in area. It's also a good idea, I'd say, for practicing. Just putting yourself out there and getting really good, really slick with that elevator pitch. But yeah, if we're looking at things like, particularly things like private investment and so on, private investors can come from any walk of life and any part of the country. So if you've got relationships that are outside your area, you're basically just extending the scope of and the breadth of your coverage, basically. I think also there can be opportunities out of area as well. So if you're connecting with people that are plugged into the local property community at a show in a different area, then who knows what opportunities that might come about from that. And assuming that you're not going to be traveling the length and breadth of the country, I think it's actually quite a great idea to go kind of one step either side of perhaps your home county, just to get yourself connected in those other local environments, because as I said, your network is going to increase as a result.
Good stuff. You suddenly stopped then. I thought you were a bit of a flow, but you suddenly stopped.
I run out of things to say.
Okay, Tony's question. Good evening, Tony. Tony says, a C3 dwelling that used to be a care home as C2, sorry, not CT. So it's a very large single unit that has 11 bedrooms. It has now been turned back, as I say, into C3 that is currently let on an AST to one large family. Blimey. Okay, so the question is, here's the question. So the question is, how likely would it be to obtain planning to divide it into 4 flats within the same footprint? There is parking for 4 cars and bins allocation. I'd say you've got a good chance, Tony. I mean, it is a planning application, so that is a requirement you've got to think of. I think what you want to just have a look at is local policy. That's what could kick in here, because in theory, if you've got 4 parking spaces, as you say, that should, in theory, be enough for that area. Have you got enough amenity? I'm sure there's big enough garden that you could either communally or even split into 4 areas. And sometimes, actually, Tony, and this is for anyone as well, if you're looking to do flats, if you can actually, rather than give a communal garden, which no one likes, put it into 4. If you've got a big house, you can turn it into 4 flats. Give them a quarter each. They've got their own little space. Put up a little shed, put a little patio area, that sort of thing, a little barbecue area. It's a lot more pleasant. Separate it with a bit of planting. Invest a little bit there. That definitely can add value. So I think if you've got a bit of amenity, you're probably okay. What you've got to do as you're going for full planning, there's no PD rights, as I'm sure you know, Tony, to go for that conversion. But it's if policy is objecting against that. So if there is a policy, local policy, that says they want family housing and not flats in this particular postcode, location, etc., you might find some resistance to it. Okay, that could be what it's about, because that's just a different group of people that are going in there, different demographic of people, more people than a family. I don't necessarily think that will be the case. Normally the objection is not to flats, it's normally to HMOs, but as you say, it was 11 bedroom HMO, I think, originally, so it can only be better. So I think you've got a very good chance. What I would suggest, though, Tony, run it past your planning consultant. They'll know if there's any local policy in that area that could trip you up, and also they'll have a quick check with you whether you've got sufficient space to get that amenity in there as well, and if 1 parking space is enough, because don't forget as well, you've got visitors. So you need to be thinking about visitors. Under the planning policy, they might require 1 1/4 per flat, so you've actually got some visitor spaces. So have a look at that. Okay, there we go, Tony. Hopefully that has helped. Okay, let's have a look what we've got here. So Jacky says, good evening, Jacky. Jacky says, any views? We always have views, don't we?
We have views.
Any views on the best place to start in property development, buy to let, SA, or rent to rent? Anywhere you want, Jacky. Okay. I think the thing is, I guess that's the answer. Start where you want to start. One of the problems and the big myth that we often try and bust here at propertyCEO, Jacky, is people think they have to start either sourcing, rent to rent, then do a bit of buy to let, then serviced apartments or HMO serviced apartments, and then if you're really good, you can do the advanced strategy of development. That's a load of old BS, Jacky. We've talked about this quite a bit on this show in the past, and it's often put out there. We've been a bit cynical by people that maybe want you to buy a course of them at every stage. I'm not saying that definitely is the case, and I'm not saying those courses aren't any good. They probably are, okay? But the thing is, we get a lot of people come to us. We get a lot of people that have got buy-to-let portfolios or HMOs, serviced apartments especially, and they go, I want to do development. I'm ready to move into that. And I say, how did you get on with the SA and the HMOs? They go, I hate it, don't they? Oh, I hate it.
Tenants. Oh.
Yeah, well, what'd you do it for then? I was told I had to. And they said, it's okay because I've got all my team. I've got electricians and plasterers. And I said, you don't need any of them. Development's completely different. The funders often you have for buy-to-lets and those things are different. And most of the stuff you learn, not all, but the majority of the stuff you learn in those businesses are not really applicable to doing development. And so I think, Jacky, the thing is, if you want to start in development, start in development. I know many well-established, seasoned developers who just started doing development. They never started in buy-to-let portfolios. They might have a portfolio now, but that's not where they started. If you feel that you want to dip your toe in the water of some buy-to-lets and getting to know how to run a business first time, then start there. Be very careful about starting in SA, service departments, because it is like running a hotel, and be very careful about starting HMOs. They're telling us we've got 30 minutes to get out.
Wow.
30 minutes, we've got to go. I mean, we'll be done in 15 with you guys. So there we go, Jacky. Hopefully that helps. Okay, next question here. This one's from Sally. Should we say good evening to Sally?
Good evening, Sally.
There we go, very polite. Sally says, I go to a lot of property networking meetings, but don't seem to meet anyone useful other than people like me trying to get started. What's your thoughts on this?
Okay, yeah, it's quite a common one. And I think it's a common one that when people go to property networking meetings, so a lot of property networking events tend to be run by training companies. And as a result, they attract people looking to get into property. So you tend to find that everyone there is kind of on the same path. Normally, page 1 of the book, trying to work out what they're going to do and how to do it. So I would say, well, you certainly, by all means, go to property networking events, and I wouldn't rule out meeting some interesting people at them. I would say that the sweet spot would be business networking meetings. So in your area, you will find that there are a number of business networking meetings. There are some events that are national. There's going to be lots of local ones, some bigger than others. What you tend to find there is that you are, well, first of all, quite often the only property developer in the room. But secondly, your audience is business owners. And business owners have kind of got two things normally. One is quite often they've got cash to invest, or their business has cash to invest. But secondly, they've also got commercial property. And they know people with commercial property. So if we look at it from that perspective, you can quickly find yourself talking to some very interesting people from your perspective who maybe could become private investors, or certainly they may have property that might be of interest, or they know people that have got property that's of interest. So I would say, make sure that you're casting your net out into that business community. It can be a little bit more tricky to find out where the local one is to you, but a little bit of research goes a long way, and obviously you can talk to other business owners and see where they go. But yeah, I would say business networking is probably better than property networking in terms of getting some really good contacts.
There you go, Sally. And Sally, by the way, Tanya says, haha, me too, Sally. And Tanya also says, she says, totally agree with Ian. That's not bad, is it? Totally agree with Ian. Wow. Unbelievable. Tanya also says, look at you two in the same room. Hello from Hampshire. Great to see you guys. We're not actually in the same, well, we are in the same room, but it's a big room, Tanya. We're actually at the Property Investor Show. I tell you what, some people have joined late, Tanya, you included by the looks of it. We give you a pan round in a minute and you can see where we are, because you probably think we're actually just in a room together. Oh, heavens forbid, we wouldn't want to do that, would we?
No.
Okay, let's get another question.
If we're lucky, and when we pan round, we might be able to catch the guy on his rounds.
Oh, it'd be funny, wouldn't it?
Well, he's round every about 23 seconds at the moment, so
he's doing well.
He's doing well.
Okay, Carolina says, you have talked before about small-scale development. What if we want to go really big in development? Really big in development.
Huge.
That would be loads of projects for 250k. I'm assuming it's 250k profit. It would then mean a big team to deliver. Yeah, it would, wouldn't it? And your point being? Look, Carolina, I don't know what you want to earn, but let's say you want to earn £1 million a year. Okay, now for most people that's probably enough. Maybe Carolina, you want to earn a lot more. I'm happy with that. But if it was £1 million a year, that's just 4 projects. Okay, yes, you might have 4 times a larger team. You may not have, because you may have the same architect doing 4 of your projects. You may have the same project manager doing 3 of your projects. You may have the same structural engineer doing 2 of your projects. Okay, so you may have a mix of people doing those projects. It's not necessarily 4 times the size team. Okay, so just be aware of that. The other thing then is to think, Carolina, about risk. This is what it's about. Okay, it's not about having one big project where you're going to earn £1 million profit, because the chances, let's say that slows up. Let me give you an example, actually, Carolina. Last year, 2020, what happened? We know, COVID, pandemic. I give you a tale of 2 developers. One developer, this is roughly the numbers as well, actually. This is what just came into my head. One developer, £1 million profit out of a scheme, roughly, okay? Project virtually at completion, but not complete. Couldn't sell anything. Virtually maximum funding. Guess what? Whole project stopped. couldn't get the contractors in, couldn't get it finished. Maximum funding. Now, well, I don't know, what do you think? Stress levels there, 1 to 10, 10 being high, probably a 15 to 20. I can tell you an example of another developer. This is virtually the numbers, Carolina. Okay, 4 projects. Okay, all, I don't know, for argument's sake, $250,000 each. Okay, they weren't exactly that, but they were roughly, So one project, I think he finished, and he got the money in the bank. Okay, the second project was something like it started, and he was so far through and sold some of them, but then it had to stop. I think the third one was on site, and he was similar to the previous guy, but it's only one of his projects, only a quarter, if you like, of his numbers. And the other one, he hadn't even got on the site, so he bought, but he wasn't at maximum funding. He was quite chilled because he went, that's why we just locked down. He'd already got his $250,000 in the bank from his first one, and he was sat there having a glass of wine, so to speak. Stress levels 1 to 10, probably about a 3 or 4, pretty chilled. This is the point. It's about spreading the risk. Okay, so it doesn't mean it's 4 times the size team. It does mean it's a bit bigger, but Carolina, that's what I would strongly suggest for you. Okay,
Fantastic.
Hopefully that helps. Right, let's have a look here. George says, hello, George. George says, do you think that you might be able to meet investors at the Property Investor Show?
Oh, well, the interesting thing about investors is
there's none out here now. They're all gone.
No, they're all gone.
It's just us.
But they don't wear a badge, so anybody could be a private investor, and which is why actually when you're networking, it really does pay dividends not to sort of disengage with people rudely and sort of dismiss them, because you might not think that they are of any obvious use to you, if I put it that way, as a professional or a contact or somebody that's going to be a contact that's going to be useful to you now, but yeah. Everybody could be a private investor, and so you want to make sure you maintain those relationships. I think that the challenge here, there's a couple of challenges. The first thing is that if you ask for money, typically you don't get it, which is a bit of an overarching statement, but it kind of just puts you in a bit of a needy spot where people think you need money. Well, how come nobody else has given you the money if you're still asking for it? So what you want to do is to put the boot on the other foot. You want to be in a situation where you're telling people about the fantastic opportunity that your existing panel of private investors have, and they then wish that they're then starting to ask you the question. Well, how could I perhaps invest? Do you open up this panel to other investors? Now, the problem with doing that is that it's not a conversation that you can generally start having at the Property Investor Show. That's not the way it tends to work. What you want to be doing at the shows like this is being able to have that initial conversation and a bit of the elevator pitch. You start to get, when you sense that there's a bit of interest, that's when you talk. Your thoughts then go towards maybe hooking up for a coffee, and then you can end up in that situation where it's more private. You can have a one-to-one conversation, get to know each other, and that's when, of course, you can introduce and talk more about the private investment opportunities. But I would say, yeah, you don't want to be coming to shows like this and sort of touting for investment. That tends not to go down well for a whole number of different reasons. But certainly when you're getting contacts here, when you're networking with people, those coffees subsequently, they can definitely bear fruit when it comes to picking up private investment opportunities. Because as I say, anybody could be a private investor, and you will never know until you have that chat or that cup of coffee.
Should you walk around with a sandwich board like the Investor Show here saying, I'm looking for money? Do you know how it works? Does it?
Possibly not.
Jackie says, by the way, Jackie, thanks for the comment. She says, I've met investors at the Property Investor Show. And Tanya also says, I met an investor at a networking event recently that looked like a hobo. Never judge a book by its cover.
That's so true.
She's obviously met with Ian here, met Ian at a show. But I think that's it. I think the thing is, we look around and we've got this guy running up and down on this carpet cleaner. How do you know he's not an investor? I know another guy who was he was at a networking meeting regularly, and he was well, I won't say who he was connected to, but a very famous TV personality that he was associated with.
Wow.
You wouldn't know, you wouldn't known at all, and he was a multi-millionaire. And I wouldn't say he dressed like a hobo, but he was rather casual. Okay, he was always there, pretty casual, jeans. I would say a pretty scruffy sort of t-shirt. It wasn't logoed, labeled t-shirt or anything. Pair of trainers, and he was actually looking for projects to invest in. And I was chatting to someone that evening at that event, and they said, oh, you can't find investors. And I said, there's a guy here and he's probably worth 50, 60 million, okay? And I said, he's looking for investment opportunities. They said, who is it? I said, I can't just say, oh, by the way, it's the guy over there in the scruffy T-shirt, because you can't go and ask him. But, you know, if he doesn't, like all the points that Ian made earlier about connecting with people, making contact with people, I know the host knew who he was. So you just need to be connected to people to make sure that actually works. Okay, what have I got next? Let's have a look here. Let's do the. Where are we on timing? Oh, we've got a bit of time. Let's do. Let's see if we might get one, maybe two more in. But what about this one, Ian? What's the easiest way to raise funds for your first development? Do you want to go for that?
For sure. So well, we talked about private investors, so that's definitely part of it. So typically, what will happen with property development is that you've got to buy the asset, and then you've got to get the development finance. So the asset, typically, you'll be borrowing up to 70% of the asset value from a commercial lender, which you will typically go through a broker to arrange, and that leaves you to find effectively a 30% deposit. I'll come back to that in a sec, but the remainder, all of the development finance, 100%, will be from the same commercial lender. So they'll be happy to lend you the whole lot. They'll kick your tires pretty hard before they lend it to you, but they're happy to be the only commercial lender that you're dealing with, and they'll lend you all of the development finance and up to 70% of the asset purchase. So that leaves you with 30% to find. And this, interestingly, this is where, again, being a buy-to-let landlord and being a property developer can be quite different, because as a buy-to-let landlord, typically you're finding, let's say, maybe a 25% deposit, but that's generally going to be your own money, your own savings, your own hard-earned. You're not going to be borrowing money to do that. Whereas with development, quite often the commercial lender will want to see some investment from the developer personally, but sometimes that can only be a relatively small amount. So of that 30% that you need to find, you may find that perhaps only 10% of that amount it needs to come from you. The rest can come from private investors. And when you think that private investors are, currently, I would say the rates that private investors in development are getting probably range between 6 and 12%, 8 to 10 probably being the most common. That's a pretty good rate of return. And guess what? There are more investors than there are deals. So whilst a lot of developers, I think, feel a bit of a pinch, they feel like, well, I need the money to make the development work, and they kind of go cap in hand out there to try and find private investment. The reality is that if you've got the deal, if you've got the project that stacks and that is paying 8 to 10%, well, you should find yourself being very, very popular. So it is a mixture of all those things together. But yeah, typically when you get into development, sometimes in terms of the personal investment that you have to put in, it can be significantly less than when you're getting a buy-to-let mortgage. But what I would say is that invariably you do have to put something in. Most lenders will insist that you have at least some skin in the game as the developer. But yeah, that's where you get the investment from.
Good stuff. Well, look, guys, I promised you a quick look round. So we just do one last quick look round for those that's joined us late, because I'm not sure you believe that we're actually at the show. So let me just turn this camera around. Actually, I'm going to just spin that around. In fact, actually, here we go. So we're going to just have a look around. You can see us at the show. Most people are cleared off now. It's actually just us here. This is the guy with the carpet cleaner who might come into shot in a minute. We're here over here. This is Live Theatre 2. So you can see this is where we're going to be speaking tomorrow. This is the Property Investor Show. It's not as big as it has been, but I do think there's going to be a lot of people actually here, and a lot of people turning up tomorrow and, of course, Saturday. So if you want to come along, come and join us. Come and see us there. I'll be up there on that stage having a bit of a chat, doing my thing. Carpet cleaner will probably be finished by then. Hang on, I'm out of camera shot now. The cameraman's not keeping up with me. Let me get back round here. Hopefully you've enjoyed the show this evening. If you have, please put it in the chat box, because we do this show for you. So we'd like to know whether you've actually enjoyed it. Of course, if you haven't enjoyed it, put that in the chat box as well. So let's see if there are any comments in the chat box. Let's see if anyone's enjoyed it. Before we actually go, though, and do that, next week's show is, of course, 14th, isn't it? No, not the 14th. It's the 21st.
It is the 21st. Yeah,
so we're back next Thursday, same time, 7 o'clock. and we will be back in our studios. We won't have to be sitting
Yeah.
together this time next week.
I'm hiring a pneumatic drill for that one.
Yeah, we're gonna get the carpet cleaner bloke into the studios just to enjoy that. So
they are spotless, to be fair.
Yeah, the carpets are very good. Okay, let's see what it says. Jenny says, always great watching you guys. Tanya says, after an SHIT week, you guys always make my week much better. Thank you, guys. You guys are great. Have a great show. Gabriella says, thoroughly enjoyed it this evening. Love seeing you guys at the show. Might come and see you. Oh, that's quite nice. I'm not sure that's a threat or a promise. Enjoyed as always. Glad your technical issues have been resolved. You had a few techie issues this morning for live Q&A with our students. Charlotte says, great show as always. Glad it's all worked out for you this evening. Have a good weekend. Jamie says, thoroughly enjoyed it. Enjoyed the questions. Enjoyed Ian's chat. Okay. Enjoyed Ian's chat. No one else has said they enjoyed this chat. That's just Jamie. Adam says, great show as always. Thoroughly enjoyed it, says Chris. Harvey says, good to see you guys. Harjinder says, I'm going to come and see you at the show. Harjinder, look forward to seeing you. Look forward to seeing you all next week, the rest of you. Cheers now.
Take care.
Good
Bye.
night. Bye-bye.